ramble a bit tonight, maybe more than usual, partially because I don't have a concrete topic that like really called out to me that I felt passionate about speaking about tonight. So the topic that I am going to cover, in addition to that, the topic that I am covering, it's something that I haven't really fully thought through yet, but it's around an area that I've spent a lot of time probably thinking about, but maybe not thinking about in the right way. So let me get into it. So my brother recently shared with me a bunch of material, content, videos on systems thinking. And there was a particular article I read recently, which was a good article. It talked about a number of different components of it, but there was a couple parts that really resonated with me. One was around this concept of regret minimization. So the idea being that when you make a decision, when you take some action, you should consider that aspect of it. Like, however long into the future, a year, 10 years, whatever it is, how much regret you'll have in trying to minimize that. So if, and it's somewhat intuitive, you hear people talk about this. If I try something and I fail, I wouldn't regret that. If I tried, that's what it's about. Even if I failed, it would be something that I'd be happy that I gave it a shot. So it's kind of in that vein, but thinking more about that more systematically in all the decisions you make. And related to that, there was also this concept of kind of being in a flow state. And it's meant to be a negative, at least as I interpreted it, that people often get in this flow, kind of comfortable state that they don't break out of. And part of what they were talking about in this article about systems thinking is the importance of not allowing yourself to get into that flow state, because you get too comfortable and you kind of you just flow. So I mentioned those two because, like I said, they resonate with me a lot, because I'm going to be 37 in a few months. And had you asked me when I was 27 or 17 what I would be doing at 37, I probably would have had a very different vision, a much grander vision of what I would have achieved and what I would have been doing for a career and those types of things. It's not to say I think I'm a failure or anything like that in my career, but I guess related to those two topics, it's not checking those boxes. It's not accounting for that the way systems thinking would say you should. From a regret minimization perspective, I regret my job today. I regret how I spend most of my time, the value I think I bring to the world, the sense of fulfillment I get from it. And I think that flow state is certainly in play. There's a degree of just, well, it's what I do and I've just been doing it. And the idea of breaking out of it just seems so foreign to me that you just keep going. And in theory, you keep regretting, but you keep going because you're in that flow state. So I get conceptually, as the article I read talked about, the idea, like, just stop and just don't do it. Like it makes no sense if you're not happy with something, if you're gonna have regret, if you're in this flow state. What the good ones do, and they talked about like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos among other people, it's their ability to do that. It's their ability to remove the emotion, to kind of detach, and allow themselves to adjust in a situation like this. And probably, and again, as I say, I probably ramble a little bit here, but what frustrates me the most about this problem or this situation that I'm saying for myself is the way I handle it, right? So even particularly thinking of it from like a work and a career perspective, there's so much unsaid that I have. There's so much undone, right? Like I work every day. I go to work. I work from home. But, there's so many things going through my head throughout the day that are like wrong, no good, shouldn't be doing this. This doesn't make sense to me. I don't enjoy doing this, whatever it is, just all these thoughts running through my head. And I just more or less ignore them. I'll sit through meetings where I'll say like, in theory, I should say something here. I should go against the grain. I should question what's being said. I should push on this. But as I mentioned in that kind of flow state concept, there's senior people on the call, and like, what's the consequence of that going to be? And am I going to rock the boat? Am I going to lose my job? Is it going to, piss somebody off? Is it going to cause just more problems for me? All those things go through your head. And I guess, again, back to the 2 points of regret minimization and flow. The flow feels like it's full effect, right? The rocking the boat, the whole idea of not doing that, just go with the flow. You don't speak up, you don't say stuff like that. You just, okay, yep, that's what we're gonna do. Sure, that makes sense, even though I don't think it makes any sense. And then the regret minimization is interesting because I seem to be maximizing for regret minimization in the moment, right? In this moment, I don't want to regret saying something because it may cause some short-term pain or short-term issues. Although it might be better off for me in the long term. So in effect, I'm using regret minimization wrong. I'm using flow right, but that's the wrong way. And it ends up where I am. And I always, or not always, but more and more these days, as I try and be more self-aware and question the way I think, I guess, simply put, I get mad at myself about this. Like it eats at me. This idea that I'm like day after day is going by where I'm allowing this to continue, day after day, meeting after meeting, all this stuff where like, why aren't you just saying it? Like I have a degree of confidence in myself. I feel like I'm pretty skilled in what I do and have a decent understanding of, the function and all that. And it's not a bad thing, right? It's not like I'm gonna curse somebody out or tell somebody off or do my job worse. I would actually be doing my job better, right? I would actually be acting on what I truly believe. So this is, again, where maybe some of the rambling will come in because I've thought about this, but probably not enough. Like, why do I do that? And it probably is a bit of just trying to stay in the flow. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. There's some fear, I guess. There's some uncomfortableness with what happens if you speak your mind more. What about the potential risks? What about the downside? It's just the unknown. Like, where does that go? But again, in theory, I shouldn't be afraid of that. I should embrace it. It should put me in a better position to be willing to do that. I think part of it is if you're going to speak your mind and you're going to push back and you're going to be provocative and you're going to, question and challenge. I say this all the time about other people. If you're going to do that, you have to be good. You have to know your stuff. So maybe there's a degree of laziness in it where if I'm going to do that, it's gonna put a bit of a target on me. It's going to raise the expectations. Am I willing to do the work that goes with that? And I think, again, trying to think about this very practically and pragmatically and somewhat through like a systems view, I'm doing work anyway. It's not like I have an abundance of free time. It's not, all hours of every day that I'm working, but why not just do the work more effectively and push and ask the questions and allow the feedback or the response, whatever that might be, to come. Like, have confidence in yourself to do that. And as I sit here right now, I don't really have a good answer for it. And particularly, like, again, what I took from the systems thinking article is this almost illogical way in which we live our lives, right? We're not happy with certain things. We wish things were different, but we don't do anything to change it. And for somebody who despises things that are illogical, it seems so strange that I would be living in an illogical way for such an extended period of time, to be aware of it, to have it be eating at me, but not do anything about it. So, the obvious response is change it. Start. Do something. Start tomorrow, right? If the first meeting you're in tomorrow, if a topic comes up that you disagree with, you don't think it's being handled right, state it. But state it confidently and with the mental toughness to stick to it, right? Because I've done it to an extent before. But once it starts to, you start to get that reaction, you start to get that pushback, it's not worth it. I'll just let it slide. Don't let it slide. Go with it. And I think of it almost in terms of, I talked about this in other, I've talked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've talked about running, I've talked about all different aspects, even just thinking better and all that, trying to be more of a learner versus somebody that just judges people. Once you start doing it, it builds on itself. And you start to give yourself the confidence of like, oh, I could do that. And it's not as scary as I thought it was. And, this is a path I can take. You just have to have the guts to do it that first time, and stick with it, right? Even if it's tricky at first, you have to stick with it and take solace in the fact that although it might be uncomfortable, although there might be some negative aspects to it in the short term, you are minimizing your regret in the long term. You're breaking out of that flow and you're doing something that's going to make you prouder of yourself, more fulfilled. And you know that it's going to happen. And it's funny, I'll quickly relate it to a topic. I've talked about my wife before, and she has some health issues, and she's going through a process now where she's trying to change her lifestyle a little bit around, just kind of sleep schedule and eating and just exercising, all that lifestyle stuff. And it's a difficult thing for her to do, right? For various reasons. And what I tell her all the time is, it's going to be hard. Go into it knowing that, right? There's going to be uncomfortableness. There's going to be pain. It's going to be hard. But if you think of it in the mindset of like, it has to be that's the sign that I'm doing the right thing and it's getting better. Think of it through that mindset. If you think of it that way, you'll almost embrace it and it'll feel like, hey, this sucks right now that I need to do this. But I know the fact that it sucks means I'm doing the right thing. So that's good. That's progress. I'm not going to regret that. It's going to be for the better. It's almost a similar mentality that I think I need to bring to my life and my career and how I'm choosing to spend my time. Break out of that flow, understand there's going to be uncomfortableness. There's going to be a kickback. There's going to be a response. There's going to be some pain in it. But I know with as much certainty as I can know anything, that if I do that, I would be prouder of it. I would be more fulfilled. I certainly would have less regret. So much like I tell my wife, like, embrace that. Understand that when all that negative comes, that means that you're doing it right. You're doing it better. And maybe I just needed this talk with myself. I don't want to try and be idealistic and say my whole life's going to change based on this, but I think I need to start and I need to tell myself it and I need to do it and really drive and push it, because otherwise it's very easy to be in this flow state for your whole life. And before you know it, like I said, when I was 17, the thought of being like this at 37 was impossible. Now I recognize I could easily be 57 and be in the same boat. So you have to change it at some point. And if I'm going to be the pragmatic, logical thinker I'd like to be, and if I want to minimize that regret, what choice do I have but to do it?